My name is Robin and I work as a mechanic at an auto repair shop in Denver, Colorado. I've been married to my wife Phoebe for 5 years, and I thought I knew her like the back of my hand. We met at a coffee shop downtown when I was 28 and she was 26. She was working on her laptop, wearing a simple blue dress that made her eyes sparkle. I spilled coffee on her papers trying to introduce myself, and somehow that clumsy moment turned into the love story I thought would last forever. But sometimes people can hide things that change everything, and the truth has a way of surfacing when you least expect it. Phoebe worked at a marketing agency in downtown Denver, handling social media campaigns for local businesses. She was brilliant at her job, creative and ambitious. I admired how passionate she was about her work, often staying late at the office to perfect campaigns. Or at least that's what I thought she was doing. Our marriage seemed solid from the outside. We had our routine. I'd wake up at 6 to get to the shop, she'd leave an hour later for her office. We'd have dinner together most nights, watch Netflix, talk about our days. On weekends, we'd go hiking in the Rockies or visit farmers markets. We talked about buying a house, maybe having kids someday. I was saving every extra dollar from overtime work, thinking we were building a future together. The first crack in my perfect world came on a rainy Thursday evening in March. Phoebe had been carrying her iPhone in her back pocket when she slipped on our wet kitchen floor. The phone hit the ceramic tiles hard and the screen shattered completely. The device was still functional, but using it meant risking cuts from the broken glass. "This is such bad timing," she said, staring at the ruined phone. "I have that big presentation next week and all my files are on here." That's when I decided to surprise her. I'd been working extra hours for months, taking on weekend jobs to build our savings. I figured I could spare some of that money to make my wife happy. The next day, I drove to the Apple store during my lunch break and bought her the newest iPhone 15 Pro in rose gold, her favorite color. It cost me nearly $1,500, which was a significant chunk of our savings, but seeing her smile would be worth it. When I walked through our front door that evening holding the Apple bag behind my back, Phoebe was sitting on our couch, struggling with her broken phone. "Close your eyes," I said, grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. She looked up, curious, and shut her eyes. I placed the bag in her lap. "Okay, open them." Her reaction was strange. Instead of the joy I expected, she looked almost panicked for a split second before forcing a smile. "Oh wow, Robin, this is amazing. Thank you so much." She hugged me, but it felt stiff, mechanical. "You didn't have to spend so much money." "Nothing's too good for my girl," I said, kissing the top of her head. "Want me to help you set it up?" No, that's okay. I'll figure it out myself. You know how particular I am about organizing everything." She laughed, but it sounded forced. "Why don't you go relax? You've had a long day." That night, she stayed up until almost midnight, hunched over the new phone. When I asked what was taking so long, she said she was transferring all her work files and didn't want me to accidentally see confidential client information. It made sense at the time. The next morning, Phoebe seemed back to her normal self. She kissed me goodbye, thanked me again for the phone, and headed off to work. I thought everything was fine. But the real shock was waiting for me later. 3 days passed normally. Then, on Sunday morning, Phoebe mentioned she was going to brunch with her sister Ashley in Boulder. She'd be gone most of the day. After she left, I decided to tackle some household chores I'd been putting off. That's when I remembered I wanted to help her with something I'd forgotten: transferring her photo memories from the old iCloud backup. You see, when Phoebe got her new phone, she'd set it up fresh instead of restoring from backup. She said she wanted a clean start, but I knew she had years of photos on her old iCloud account that she'd want to keep. Wedding pictures, family gatherings, our vacations, memories that couldn't be replaced. I had her Apple ID and password. We'd always been open about these things, sharing accounts for family photos and music. It never occurred to me that this transparency might reveal something I wasn't supposed to see. I sat down at our kitchen table with my laptop and logged into her iCloud account. At first, everything looked normal. There were the photos I expected: our recent anniversary dinner, pictures of her sister's new baby, screenshots of work presentations. I started selecting batches to download when I noticed a folder I didn't recognize. The folder was labeled Work Projects Private. I almost skipped it, thinking it might be confidential client materials. But something made me pause. Phoebe had never been secretive about her work before. She usually showed me the campaigns she was proud of. Curiosity got the better of me. I clicked on the folder. The first few images loaded slowly, and for a moment I couldn't process what I was seeing. Then my brain caught up and my entire world collapsed. They were intimate photographs. Hundreds of them. But not of us. My wife, my Phoebe, was in explicit poses with a man I'd never seen before. He was tall, dark-haired, wearing expensive suits in some photos and nothing at all in others. The pictures were taken in various locations, hotel rooms I didn't recognize, what looked like an upscale apartment, and then, my blood ran cold, our own bedroom. Our bed. The comforter we picked out together, the lamp I'd assembled, the picture of us from our honeymoon hanging in the background. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely operate the trackpad. The photos had timestamps. I started checking dates with growing horror. The oldest ones were from almost 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years of lies. 2.5 years of betrayal happening in my own home while I was at work, trusting her completely. But the real shock was still waiting for me. I forced myself to look through more of the folder, though every image felt like a knife to my chest. There were screenshots of text conversations mixed in with the photos. The contact name was saved as Jason Marketing Conference. I opened the first screenshot. The messages made me physically sick. Can't wait to see you Thursday. I will be working late again. I told him I'm having dinner with my sister. We have the whole night. Your husband is so clueless, face with tears of joy. Does he suspect anything? Not at all. He's too busy with his cars to notice what I'm up to. Sometimes I think he loves that garage more than me. His loss is my gain. Can't believe he doesn't see what he has. Trust me, he doesn't appreciate me like you do. The messages went on and on. Plans for secret meetings, jokes at my expense, intimate details about our marriage that she was sharing with this stranger. She told him about my insecurities, my fears about not being smart enough for her, things I'd confided in her during our most vulnerable moments. I discovered they'd been meeting at least twice a week for over 2 years. While I thought she was working late or meeting friends, she was with him. While I was saving money for our future house, she was spending it on expensive lingerie and hotel rooms. While I was planning our 5th anniversary celebration, she was planning secret weekend getaways with her lover. But that wasn't even the worst part. Buried deeper in the conversation screenshots, I found travel confirmations. They had booked a trip to Paris for the following month, a week-long vacation in a luxury hotel. My wife had told me she needed to go on a business trip for an important client presentation. She even showed me fake travel documents that looked legitimate. But the real shock was the financial documents I found next. Mixed in with the photos were screenshots of bank statements from an account I didn't know existed. She had been systematically moving money from our joint savings, money I'd earned working overtime and weekends, into this secret account. The balance showed over $28,000. $28,000 of our future house fund, our emergency money, our shared dreams, all funding her affair. I sat in our kitchen staring at the laptop screen, feeling like I was going to vomit. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, my wife was a lie. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted completely, had been living a double life for more than half of our marriage. But I wasn't done discovering her betrayals yet. I found rental agreements for an apartment across town. They'd been splitting the rent on a love nest for 8 months. While I was saving every penny, she was paying for their private romantic hideaway with our money. The lease had both their names on it, Jason Mitchell and Phoebe Richardson. She was already using his last name. The most painful discovery came in a folder labeled Future Plans. There were screenshots of house listings in California, job applications for marketing positions in Los Angeles, and email conversations about starting fresh on the West Coast. She was planning to leave me and move across the country with him. They talked about it like I was just an obstacle to work around, not a human being whose life they were destroying. In one particularly cruel exchange, Jason had written, "How long do you think it'll take to finalize the divorce?" Her response, "I'm hoping to drag it out for at least 6 months. I need time to transfer more of our assets. He's too trusting to check the accounts regularly." She was planning to clean me out financially before disappearing with her lover. But the real shock was still coming. I spent the next 4 hours going through everything, taking screenshots, documenting dates and details. By the time I finished, I had irrefutable evidence of adultery, financial fraud, and conspiracy to defraud me of our marital assets. I was numb, operating on autopilot. Phoebe came home around 6 that evening, carrying takeout bags and acting like everything was normal. "How was brunch with Ashley?" I asked, testing her. "Oh, it was great. We went to that new place in Boulder, talked about Mom's birthday party next month. You know how she is." She kissed my cheek and started unpacking dinner. "I got your favorite Thai food from that place on Colfax." Every word was effortless, casual, natural. She had become such an expert liar that she didn't even seem to think about it anymore. I wondered how many other stories were fabrications. How many times had she looked me in the eye and lied without hesitation? That's nice, I managed. I'm not really hungry right now. I think I might have caught something. She felt my forehead with the back of her hand. You do feel a little warm. Why don't you go lie down? I'll bring you some soup later. The caring, concerned wife act was perfect. If I hadn't seen the evidence with my own eyes, I would never have suspected anything. She was that good at deception. That night as she slept beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The woman next to me was a stranger. Everything I thought we had was fake. Our conversations, our intimacy, our plans, all of it was just her playing a role while living her real life with someone else. But I wasn't going to confront her yet. I needed a plan. The next morning I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. After Phoebe left for the office or wherever she actually went, I drove to downtown Denver and consulted with 3 different divorce attorneys. I needed to understand my options and protect myself legally. The third lawyer, Patricia Hernandez, was a tough woman in her 50s who specialized in complex divorce cases involving adultery and financial fraud. This is one of the most comprehensive documentation cases I've ever seen, she said, reviewing the evidence on my laptop. Your wife has committed multiple actionable offenses: adultery, conversion of marital assets, fraud. In Colorado, this kind of evidence can significantly impact property division and spousal support. What are my chances of keeping the house and our savings? I asked. With this evidence? Very good. Colorado has no-fault divorce, but documented adultery and financial misconduct still influence asset division. She's used marital funds to finance an extramarital relationship and hidden assets. A judge won't look favorably on that. Patricia explained the process: file for dissolution of marriage, serve papers, begin asset protection procedures, and prepare for either settlement negotiations or trial. She recommended we move quickly, especially given the evidence that Phoebe was planning to leave the state. The most important thing, Patricia warned, is that you cannot let her know you're aware of the affair. If she realizes you've discovered her plans, she might accelerate her timeline or attempt to hide more assets. So began the most difficult period of my life, pretending everything was normal while secretly preparing for the end of my marriage. For 3 weeks, I lived a double life almost as elaborate as hers. Every morning, I kissed her goodbye and told her I loved her. Every evening, I asked about her day and listened to her lies with a straight face. Meanwhile, I was working with Patricia to file divorce papers, secure our assets, and prepare for the legal battle ahead. The hardest part was the physical intimacy. When she tried to initiate romance, I had to make excuses. I was tired, stressed about work, not feeling well. I couldn't bear the thought of touching someone who was sharing herself with another man. The few times I couldn't avoid it, I felt sick afterward. But I played the role of the loving, oblivious husband while gathering more evidence. I installed security cameras around our house, legally since I owned it, and discovered she was bringing Jason to our home at least twice a week while I was at work. I documented every visit, every lie, every betrayal. But the real shock was still waiting. 3 weeks into my secret preparation, Phoebe came home with news about her business trip to Paris. She had refined her story since the initial lie, adding details about client meetings and marketing conferences. She even showed me a fake itinerary that looked completely legitimate. I know the timing isn't great, she said, curling up next to me on the couch. But this could really advance my career. The client specifically requested me for their European expansion campaign. How long will you be gone? I asked, knowing the answer. A week, maybe 10 days depending on how the meetings go. I'll miss you so much. She kissed my neck and I had to fight not to pull away. Maybe when I get back we can plan a vacation of our own. We've both been working so hard. The irony was devastating. She was planning a romantic week in Paris with her lover, funded by our money, while promising me a vacation that would never happen. That sounds wonderful, I said. When do you leave? Next Thursday. I know it's short notice, but they need someone there immediately. I had 1 week to finalize my preparations. That weekend, while Phoebe was supposedly visiting her sister again, she was actually spending the weekend at the secret apartment with Jason. I had the security footage to prove it. I met with Patricia to review our strategy. We'll serve her the divorce papers the day she returns from Paris, Patricia explained. By then you'll have changed the locks on the house, secured all marital assets, and filed all necessary paperwork. She'll come back from her romantic vacation to find her life completely changed. What if she tries to fight it? I asked. With this evidence? She won't have much ground to stand on. More likely she'll want to settle quickly to avoid public exposure of the affair. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Let her go to Paris thinking she was outsmarting me, then reveal that I'd been 3 steps ahead all along. But the universe had one more shock in store for me. The night before Phoebe's departure, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about our wedding day, how radiant she looked walking down the aisle, how she cried during our vows. Had any of it been real? Or was she already capable of such elaborate deception even then? Around 3 in the morning, her phone buzzed with a text message. She was dead asleep, so I glanced at the notification. It was from Jason. Can't wait to wake up next to you in Paris tomorrow night. I love you. Something twisted in my chest. I realized that in all my documentation of their affair, I'd been focused on the betrayal and deception. But seeing those 3 words, I love you, made it real in a different way. This wasn't just physical infidelity or financial fraud. She loved him. She had formed an emotional bond with another man while pretending to love me. I went to the kitchen and sat in the dark, processing this new layer of pain. My marriage wasn't just ending, it had been over for years without my knowledge. While I was falling asleep next to her every night, grateful for our life together, she was falling in love with someone else. But that revelation would prove useful in ways I didn't expect. Thursday morning arrived with typical Colorado spring weather, sunny and crisp. Phoebe had packed for her business trip the night before, carefully selecting outfits that looked professional but were actually romantic. I recognized the red dress she'd worn on our first anniversary, the black heels I'd bought her for Valentine's Day last year. I'm going to miss you so much, she said, hugging me goodbye at our front door. I'll text you when I land. Have a safe trip, I replied, knowing it would be the last time I'd ever tell her I loved her. I'll be here when you get back. She looked at me for a long moment, and for a second I thought I saw something like regret in her eyes. But then she smiled, grabbed her suitcase and walked out of our house forever. After her Uber pulled away, I called Patricia. She's gone, I said. Time to execute the plan. The next few days were a whirlwind of legal activity. Patricia filed the divorce papers with the court, citing adultery and financial misconduct. I changed the locks on our house, opened new bank accounts, and transferred the remaining marital funds into secured accounts that she couldn't access. I also had a locksmith install a security system upgrade that would prevent her key from working. Most importantly, I prepared a comprehensive dossier of evidence to present to her when she returned. Every photo, every text message, every financial document, every piece of proof of her 2.5-year deception. But the final shock was waiting for me at the airport. On Sunday evening, unable to resist, I drove to Denver International Airport. I knew from her itinerary, the real one I'd found in her emails, not the fake one she'd shown me, that she was returning on a United flight at 8:47 p.m. I parked in the pickup area and waited. Part of me wasn't sure why I was there. Maybe I needed to see them together one final time to make it real, or maybe I was just torturing myself. At 9:15 I saw them emerge from the terminal. They were holding hands, laughing, looking like the perfect couple returning from a romantic European vacation. Jason was tall and conventionally handsome, wearing an expensive-looking leather jacket. He looked like everything I wasn't: sophisticated, polished, urban. But what shocked me most was how happy Phoebe looked. In all our years together, I'd never seen her face light up the way it did when she looked at him. She was glowing, radiant, completely in love. It was the expression I'd thought she wore for me, but realized I'd never actually seen. They kissed goodbye at the passenger pickup, a long, passionate embrace that felt like a knife through my heart. Then she got into an Uber, probably heading to our house, expecting to find her clueless husband waiting with a welcome home dinner. Instead, she was about to find divorce papers and changed locks. I followed her Uber from a distance, arriving at our house just as she was discovering she couldn't get inside. I parked across the street and watched as she tried her key repeatedly, then walked around the house checking windows and the back door. Finally, she called someone, probably me, though I turned off my phone hours earlier. After 20 minutes of trying to reach me, she called another Uber. I assumed she was going to Jason's place or maybe a hotel. She had no idea that her old life had been completely dismantled while she was living it up in Paris. The next morning, Patricia called me at work. She's been served, Patricia said. The process server found her at the Marriott downtown. She's requesting an emergency meeting. I'm not ready to see her yet, I said. Can you handle it? Of course. But Robin, you should know, she seems genuinely shocked. The server said she broke down crying when she read the papers. That afternoon, Phoebe started calling me nonstop. When I didn't answer, she started texting. Robin, please, we need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding. I can explain everything. Please don't do this. I love you. I've made mistakes, but we can fix this. Please answer your phone. I'm begging you. The messages became increasingly desperate as the day went on. By evening, she had switched to email, sending long paragraphs about how sorry she was, how the affair meant nothing, how she wanted to save our marriage. But I had seen her face at the airport. I knew how she looked when she was genuinely happy, genuinely in love. And it wasn't with me. But there was one final revelation that would change everything. A week later, Patricia called with news that floored me. Your wife wants to settle, she said. She's offering to give up all claims to marital property in exchange for a quick, quiet divorce. Why would she do that? I asked. Even with the evidence, she'd be entitled to something in the division. That's what I wondered. So I did some investigating. It turns out Jason Mitchell is married. The room seemed to spin around me. What? He's been married for 12 years. 3 kids, lives in Cherry Hills Village. His wife has no idea about the affair. Your wife just spent a week in Paris with a married man whose family thinks he was at a business conference. Suddenly everything made sense. Phoebe's eagerness to settle wasn't about remorse or wanting to avoid public scrutiny of her affair. She was trying to protect Jason's secret as much as her own. If our divorce became contentious and the evidence became public record, his wife would inevitably find out. She's trying to protect him, I said, more to myself than to Patricia. Seems that way. The question is, do we take the settlement or push for full disclosure? I thought about Jason's wife, whoever she was. 3 kids who had no idea their father was a cheater. A woman who was probably living the same lie I'd been living for 2.5 years, trusting completely while being systematically betrayed. But I also thought about Phoebe's face at the airport, how genuinely happy she'd looked. She was in love with a man who was using her the same way she'd been using me. Take the settlement, I said finally. But I want one additional condition. What's that? I want her to sign a statement admitting to the adultery and financial fraud. Something detailed that could be released if she ever tries to contact me again or if she spreads lies about why our marriage ended. Patricia was quiet for a moment. That's actually brilliant. It gives you protection and leverage without requiring public disclosure. I'll draft something. 2 weeks later, we met at Patricia's office for the final signing. It was the first time I'd seen Phoebe since she left for Paris, and she looked terrible. She'd lost weight, her eyes were red and puffy, and she seemed smaller somehow, diminished. Robin, she said as soon as she saw me. Please, can we talk privately for just a minute? No, I said simply. Let's just get this over with. She looked like she wanted to say more, but Patricia stepped in with the paperwork. The settlement was straightforward. Phoebe would relinquish all claims to our house, our savings, and any other marital assets. She would also repay the $28,000 she'd stolen from our accounts, though she had 36 months to do so. In return, the divorce would be processed quickly and quietly. The most important document was the confession Patricia had drafted. It detailed every aspect of Phoebe's affair, the financial fraud, and the deception. Phoebe's hands shook as she read it. This is so detailed, she said to Patricia. If this ever became public, then you shouldn't have cheated on your husband, Patricia replied coolly. This document stays sealed unless you violate the terms of your agreement or attempt to harass my client in any way. Phoebe looked at me one more time. I really did love you, she said quietly. I know you don't believe that, but it's true. No, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. You loved the security I provided. You loved having someone to fall back on while you pursued what you really wanted. But you never loved me the way I loved you. She started crying, but I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no satisfaction. Just emptiness. She signed the papers. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. I never saw or spoke to Phoebe again. But the story has one final twist. 6 months after our divorce was finalized, I was at Home Depot picking up supplies for a bathroom renovation when I ran into Ashley, Phoebe's sister. We'd always gotten along well, and I could see she was uncomfortable about the encounter. Robin, she said hesitantly. I wanted to apologize. I had no idea what Phoebe was doing. If I'd known. It's not your fault, I said. You don't need to apologize for her choices. Ashley looked around nervously, then leaned closer. Can I tell you something? Something you should probably know. I nodded. Jason went back to his wife. About 2 months ago. Phoebe found out he never intended to leave his family. He'd been telling her the same lies she was telling you, that he was working toward ending his marriage, that they'd be together officially soon. I felt a strange mix of vindication and pity. How is she? Not good. She moved back in with our parents in Colorado Springs. She's been seeing a therapist, trying to figure out how she became someone capable of that level of deception. She asks about you sometimes. I hope she gets the help she needs, I said, and I meant it. But I don't want to know about her life anymore. Ashley nodded. I understand. I just thought you should know that she lost everything too. Jason, the money she stole from you, her job, her friends who found out what happened. She's paying the consequences. As I drove home that day, I reflected on the cosmic justice of it all. Phoebe had betrayed me for a man who was never really available to her. She'd destroyed our marriage for someone who was using her the same way she'd been using me. She'd given up something real for something that was ultimately an illusion. But I wasn't glad she was suffering. I wasn't even angry anymore. I just felt free. Today, 2 years after discovering those photos on the new phone I bought her, I'm still living in our house in Denver. I've renovated most of it, making it truly mine rather than ours. I've been dating a little, though trust doesn't come easily anymore. I'm in therapy too, working through the trauma of discovering that the person you trust most in the world has been systematically lying to you for years. Sometimes I wonder if there were signs I missed, red flags I should have noticed. But I've come to realize that some people are simply expert deceivers. They can compartmentalize their lives so completely that even the people closest to them never suspect the truth. The new iPhone I bought Phoebe out of love became the key to unlocking her deception. Technology meant to bring us closer together instead revealed how far apart we really were. There's an irony in that, my gift to her became her downfall and my liberation. I've learned that trust isn't just about believing someone won't hurt you. It's about being with someone incapable of that level of systematic deception. Someone whose character makes betrayal impossible, not just unlikely. I don't know what happened to Jason and his family. I don't know if his wife ever found out about the affair. Part of me hopes she did. For her own sake, she deserves the truth just like I did. As for Phoebe, I genuinely hope she finds peace and becomes someone worthy of real love. The person who could lie to my face every day for 2.5 years while systematically betraying me wasn't someone I ever really knew. Maybe therapy will help her discover who she actually is underneath all that deception. But that's not my concern anymore. My concern is building a life based on authenticity, transparency, and genuine connection. I refuse to let her betrayal make me cynical about love, but I'll never again ignore my instincts or fail to verify trust with evidence. The mechanic in me knows that when something seems too good to be true, you look under the hood. I should have applied that same principle to my marriage. Now I know better. Some stories don't have happy endings. Some stories are about survival, recovery, and the long journey back to trusting yourself and others. This is one of those stories. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Maybe YouTube will no longer offer you my channel, so subscribe to it by clicking subscribe on the right under the video to receive new interesting stories. Also on the right of the video there is a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to, and you can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.